Hello everyone, my name is Agent Paul of Mobile Task Force Delta 7, codename Bookkeepers. And welcome back to another SCP document review. And the SCP we will be reviewing today is SCP-8899. Object Class, ISIS. Site Responsible, Area 1. Site Director, not available. Research Head, not available. Assigned Task Force, MTF-1. Level 5 Clearance, Thaumiel. Special Containment Procedures. The item is to be classified as ISIS if the item has become intrinsic to preserving consensus perceptive reality. SCP-8899 is to remain in Area-01 and is not to be moved or tampered with. Due to the object's anomalous properties, it does not require any maintenance. As a result, containment procedures are to focus instead on preventing unauthorized access to SCP-8899 and, in turn, Area 01. Members of MTF-1, codename Seat of Consciousness, are to remain on site to guard Area 01. Unless the Peccatum Original Protocols are in effect, only members of MTF-1 are permitted within Area 01. Due to its powerful mnemonic and Gnostic capabilities, the risk of it causing several K-class scenarios if mishandled, and the role it plays in establishing and maintaining the Veil, all information regarding Area 01 and SCP-8899's location is to remain undisclosed, even to those of the O5 Council. Quick aside, I am absolutely going to have to take an amnestic after this document review. Access to Area 01 and SCP-8899 must only be carried out when the Pentacum Original Protocols are in effect. When in effect, a self-driving car, operated by Tynet.aic, will arrive at Site-01 to transfer personnel to Area 01. Outside of on-site personnel, only Tynet.aic may know the location of SCP-8899. Under the Peccatum Original Protocols, it is mandatory for SCP-8899 to be visited by a member of the O5 Council if the following criteria are met. In the event of an O5 Council member's death and the successful inauguration of their successor in accordance with the Overwatch Command Sin Eater candidate selection process. In the event of an O5 Council member's retirement, resignation, demotion, or imprisonment and the successful inauguration of their successor in accordance of the Overwatch Command Sin Eater candidate selection process. In this scenario, the former member must have all of their knowledge of SCP-8899 removed via the use of Class C amnestics. Upon the arrival of the newly selected O5 Council member to Area 01, they must be taken to SCP-8899 by a member of Resh-1. Once there, the Counselor must subject themselves to SCP-8899 to access -A. Once the member is returned from -A, the Peccatum Original Protocols are completed, and the Counselor is to return to Site-01. Description: SCP-8899 resembles a common English yew tree, approximately 12 meters in height. Regardless of environmental conditions, the object will always be in full foliage, producing aryl-coated seed cones, identical to those seen on standard yew trees. Except for the seeds, SCP-8899 is physically invulnerable, making it impossible to take a sample for genetic analysis or carbon dating. If picked, a seed will continue to exist externally from the object until approximately 30 seconds after detaching. If not eaten within this time, the seed will cease to exist, and a new seed will appear on SCP-8899. Unlike their non-anomalous counterpart, the seeds are non-toxic and edible. Consumers have reported that the aryl tastes vaguely sweet, although leaves a mild bitter aftertaste. 10 seconds after the consumption of a seed, the consumer will fall into an induced REM sleep and be transported to SCP-8899-A. It is impossible to awaken the consumer in this state. Only through the approval of SCP-8899-Beta will they awaken. SCP-8899-A refers to an interdimensional juncture plane, possibly of infinite size, resembling a meadow grassland. The dimension's sky is dark purple in hue and devoid of any celestial objects. Within the dimension is a single black tree of unknown species, designated SCP-8899-B, engraved with several golden markings and symbols of unknown meaning. While several of its roots protrude from the ground at various points, the object's main body is impossible to reach or move away from, with it retaining a relative position on the dimension's horizon at all times. The top of -B is unperceivable, with it and many of its higher branches extending into the sky further than can be directly observed. Occasionally, -B's branches will emit a series of golden or silver lights, not dissimilar to that of Aurora Borealis. When this occurs, faint whispering and rhythmic sounds can be heard coming from the dimension's sky. The function of these lights and the meaning of the sounds is unknown. Excluding -B, the only other inhibitors of -A are SCP-8899-Alpha and SCP-8899-Beta. See Addendum 8899.1. And here we have Addendum 8899.1. -Alpha and -Beta. SCP-8899-Alpha resembles a humanoid female of Middle Eastern descent, estimated to be around their late 20s. Much of their body is heavily scarred, with a large second-degree burn scar covering their left shoulder, breast, and neck. -Alpha is typically seen wearing thick hides and furs, and carrying a series of knives constructed from animal bones. According to witnesses, -Alpha is highly hard-hearted and taciturn, barely interacting with them during their visits to -A. Little information regarding -Alpha can be found, with most of the data regarding them coming from -Beta. According to -Beta, -Alpha is known as Ninma, though she has been referred to by many other names, and was born sometime around 10,000 BCE in Neolithic Mesopotamia. Before becoming -Alpha, they were a leader of one of the first tribes of human farmers located in the Fertile Crescent, a crescent-shaped region in the Middle East. Most archaeologists believe the area to be the very first region where humans developed agriculture and architecture. Furthermore, they claim that whilst -Alpha was the first to apply SCP-8899's capabilities, they were not its original creator. SCP-8899-Beta. SCP-8899-Beta resembles a humanoid male of European descent, estimated to be in their early 50s, although according to them, they are exactly 102 years old before becoming -Beta. They always appear well-groomed, sporting neatly cut hair and beard. They are typically seen wearing dark green military dress uniform and carrying a black walking stick. -Beta possesses the Victoria Cross and the Black Forest Medal, a campaign medal issued to officers of British units, land, naval, aerial, and extra-dimensional, who fought in the Sixth Occult War from 1864 to 1869, which are attached to the coat's breast. Unlike -Alpha, -Beta is much more sociable, activity engaging with anyone visiting -A. According to witnesses, -Beta is well-spoken, responsive, and curious. Before becoming a resident of -A, -Beta was once Frederick Williams, Chamberlain of Administration for Group of Interest W008, Her Majesty's Foundation for the Secure Containment of the Paranormal. One of the 13 founding members of the Foundation, co-writer of SCP-001, an initiator of the Askik Neath Protocol. Following their initiation of the Ascicneath Protocol and their preferment of the role of Dash-Beta in 1870. The Foundation erased all information about Frederick Williams from all documentation and records. Since then, their confirmed existence is only known to those of the O5 Council. Overwatch Command. In accordance with SCP-8899's containment procedures, no further information regarding the object's obtainment, history, or role is to be added to this file. All additional information must be given directly by Dash-Beta during the Peccatum Original Protocols. And that is it. Thank you all so much for listening or watching. I need to go get injected with amnestics, probably the strong stuff. And my name is Agent Paul of MTF Delta 7, and I'll see you next week with another document review. Bye. The following is written by Arth Chimero. From mud, grass, and sand. With the behemoths destroyed or diminished, and the tree now safe from their greed and arrogance, the serpent retreated to perform their duty, and the world was free to forge its creations. And in time it became rich with wild lives and powerful beings, forms of strength, speed, dexterity, longevity, and more. As the aeons passed, some of the lives died off and were replaced, while some changed and grew further in form. But for the most of this period, they remained wild and senseless, until from out of the mud, grass, and sand rose beings. 3 beings, not yet seen in the world before. Those who flew in the starlight, those who sang in the moonlight, those who built in daylight. Quite dissimilar to each other, though sharing a mind and soul, these 3 beings set out into the world to find their place in its wild tapestry. Those who sing, the Basajan, were the strongest of the 3. Titanic in size, the Basajan possessed coats of fine hair and eyes, those that could see even in the darkest of nights. They were not blessed with the power of speech and language like their sibling beings, but instead could communicate through sheer thought alone. In the nights, as they walk and sang as one, the very forest and flowers would bend with their rhythm, as if drawn to their melody. Those who flew, the Elion, were the swiftest of the 3. Born with 6 wings of crystalline structure, they would fly among the clouds and mountains, nearly touching the heavens themselves. They were also gifted with a sense not seen in the world's lives before. As they flew, they could feel the secret rules and rituals that the behemoths had left in the world before their destruction. In time, they would learn to harness these rules to further themselves. Those who built, the men, were the simplest of the 3, devoid of strength and swiftness. They were not as gifted as the Elion and Bajoan. However, this weakness helped them develop skills, as they soon began to use materials around them to build and craft artifacts to aid them. And nature had not left them completely without ability, for at night, when they slept, huddled from the cold and dark, their minds would fashion new images and ideas, encouraging their craftsmanship and resourcefulness. And so the world was ruled by 3 beings: the Basajuan, of great strength and fruitful song, the Elion of swift flight and insightful touch, and the men of delicate craft and rich dream. The War Instigators. As the world turned, the 3 beings traveled the lands and oceans, each fueling their wonder and longing. The Elion, unburdened by the need to remain grounded, gathered together and flew north towards the lands of winds and snow. Soon they felt a pull in the land, a familiar whisper left by dead, godly beasts. Descending, they found buried in ice and stone the corpse of a dead behemoth, believed to have succumbed to the starvation caused by the serpent. Though dead, its flesh was still rich in Sruth, the pollen of the tree, which fueled the secret rules of the world. Seeing what the body and aura of a behemoth could do, the Elions settled in the area, entombing the body and creating their first home. As the Elion bred and spread, the aura of the behemoth enhanced their bodies and thoughts, granting them longevity and opening their eyes to the hidden rules. Soon, they applied these rules to memory and began to use them in their own ways. They started storms and rainfall, reshaped lands and mountains, stole names and inheritance, and twisted the animals around them into abhorrent shapes. This power grew and soon encouraged a sickness in the Elion, an obsession with control, rules, and experimentation. And soon the sickness caught the attention of the serpent. The serpent was familiar with the sickness. The behemoths had shared it, and so once when young, they had too. But they had learnt better and changed themselves into a guardian of knowledge. Not wanting history to repeat itself, the serpent left their home from the depths of the tree and appeared before the Elion. He showed them the ways of the world and introduced them to the records lining the branches of the tree. In their heart, the serpent hoped its actions would bring the Elion into a new age. Their hope was false. Now empowered and lettered further, the Elion spread across the world, creating magnificent settlements in which to study, experiment, and play. With access to the tree, they pushed the secret rules further, designing spells and rituals that granted them capabilities no creature could have hoped to gain through natural evolution. Eventually, in a battle that lasted a decade, the Elion were united under one ruler, an immortal queen named Ibel, ruled her people through desire and wit. But the Elions were not alone in their evolution. Back in the lands of mud and grass, the Bajawan and the men had shown signs of growth too. The Bajawan's control in flowering and breeding had developed significantly, now able to fill entire lands with fruitful gardens through song. The men's skills had also matured, now able to shape wood, wool, stone, and clay into tools, vehicles, weapons, and buildings. Although this growth was impressive, it was not what caused the Elion to worry. The two species had not only progressed, but had forged alliances, teaching each other their skills and knowledge, and communicating during dawn and dusk. Fearing the threat the two species could pose to them, the Elion looked to their queen for an answer. The queen, skilled in the art of deception and politics, used her skills to incept a doubt in each species. Once placed, she encouraged the doubt into distrust, which finally formed into a hostile paranoia. Before long, the two species, who had once been peaceful allies, were at war with one another. The war stagnated their growth, poisoned their minds, and allowed the Elion to continue unthreatened. A sin most foul. As the centuries passed, the war continued, each side taking more and more ruthless actions, all while the Elion continued with their games and secrets, even going as far as to create small worlds in pockets for their goals. They even went as far as to deform themselves and their sibling species. So great was their power and arrogance that they believed themselves to be divine. However, soon the conflict between the Bajawan and the men began to grow out of hand. Furthermore, many Elion had been careless and left many of their creations unchecked, with some coming under the ownership of Bajawan and men. Once again wary, the Elion turned to their queen for answers. Ibel, once so wise and farsighted, was now lost and confused. No matter what they did, their enemies would always be equal to them in will and mind. The conflict, whilst a distraction, had merely encouraged their sibling species' colonization. Eventually, after much thought, she took herself to the tomb of the behemoth. With much care and effort, she ripped off a piece of its flesh and sculpted a blade of fine point. Once finished, she requested her finest boffins and thurgists to follow her into the realm of tree. Traveling deep into the realm, the party soon found themselves at the root of the tree, a place even the serpent hadn't dared go to. There, Ibel unsheathed the blade and dug it into the firm wood of the tree, ripping and pulling until she cut a small branch, a branch bathing in power and knowledge. The party left laughing in pride, but blind to the sin they had just caused. The serpent had seen and felt all, and came to loathe the Elion. Taking the branch, Eibel and her followers planted it in blessed soil. Soon the branch grew in leafage and bloom, becoming a small tree the size of a child, a sapling. Eibel smiled in triumph. Soon the sapling would bear fruit like no other. Fruit which, when eaten, would grant the user the power over knowledge and story. With this sapling, Eibel would have control over all wisdom, secrets, and mysteries in the world, eradicating any threat to her people by reducing great intelligence into primal idiocy. Her people cheered, though one voice of concern spoke out against the cries. Blefebe, one of Eibel's most skilled witches, showed great worry, fearing that the sapling would bring nothing but chaos and conflict and bring consequences that would last for eons. Eibel, blinded by pride and cleverness, dismissed her witch, claiming her ideas as nothing but needless paranoia. Unfortunately for the king, Blefebe's worries came too late, for later that day, a man snuck into the queen's quarters. The man's name was Ninma, a sagacious leader, farmer, and warrior. She had been one of Elion's many studies, and had been embedded with great strength and dexterity. That night, applying all her ability, she found the sapling growing and stole it, taking it back to her home. By the time her captors had noticed, it was already too late. When all the flowers bloomed. The war had been hard on Ninma and her people. Because of the Bajowan, her farms had produced no crops, and many of her people had perished in hunger and cold. She hated the Bajowan, more so than the Elion. As a child, she had to be born into war with them, and had lost friends and family at their hands. As an adult, she had to give up so much to fuel an endless cycle of bloodshed and weeping. No more. With the sapling in her hands, she hid the artifact in her tribe's crypt and waited. With time and care, the sapling flowered and sprouted, till finally, one autumn night, a single small fruit appeared on one of its branches. Ninma was surprised at how small it was. It was no bigger than a flake of gravel. Now her time had come. Ninma felt a great shame within her. In one act, she would destroy an entire intelligence. Their enemies, yes, but also their siblings. Could she really do this? Then she thought of her people. So long they had been stuck in warfare and pain that there had been so little in life and growth, and so much in death. This was the only way she had. So full of guilt and sadness, Ninma picked the fruit of the sapling, swallowed its bittersweet aril, and changed the world. It began with a question. As the Bajowan walked and sang in the night, they felt together, a feeling alien to them. A disturbed, a shiver, a hollowness. They looked skyward and saw the heavens fill with golden lights. As they glowed, a single sound was heard. A cry, a shriek. Then came pain. Oh, what pain! As if cold and lightning were surging through their minds and bodies, the Bajowan felt their souls, both shared and separate, drain and lessen. All they were was fading, consumed by terror and agony. The Bajowan screamed as one, and as they screamed, the forests and meadows of the world burst with flowers in bloom, bending and twisting as the Bajowan wailed for hours. Finally came the slumber. With their souls now mutilated and their minds now wiped clean, the Bajowan collapsed into a sleep so deep that when the dawn, almost all had died in their rest. Those who woke were lesser than before, primal, mere beasts in the forest, with all they were now lost forever. And so the war ended, and the world was changed in a day of flowers. At dawn, the tribe woke to find Ninma dead, clinging to the sapling, blood pouring from her mouth and eyes full of tears. They know not what she had done, but knew it had been both brave and painful. As for the Elion, they cowered in confusion and fear. They had seen the flowers bloom and the heavens fill with light. They knew that men had won, and had in their control a weapon of terrifying power. But the worst was yet to come. Suddenly the heavens parted, and from the ways flew the serpent. Their green eyes flashed with rage and disgust, for it knew whilst humanity had acted, they had done so in fear and ignorance. The sin was the Elion's to bear. So as punishment, the serpent forbid the Elion access to the tree from that day on, and in doing so, much of their hidden rules and powers were taken from them. Once again, the Elion were mere animals of the world. Furious, the Elion turned on their queen. Ibel was subject to torture and torment before having her life and immortality stripped from her at the hands of Belphoebe. Now the new queen, Belphoebe took her people into the dark places of the world to find new ways of living. With the Bajowan slaughtered and dulled, and the Elion weakened and divided, the men were now free. Before they wandered out into the world, the serpent descended and spoke to them. Disappointed, but understanding, they commanded the sapling to be entombed forever in an enchanted pit, as its power was too great for it to be used again. Then they made a vow to the men, promising it would help them in their endeavors, for they did not want to see history repeat itself. And so, with the serpent now their teacher, the men set out, and behind them, they left the sapling entombed and forgotten. And so, with the serpent now their teacher, the men set out, and behind them, they left the sapling entombed and forgotten, hopefully hidden from the world forever.